Have you ever been alone at night and felt like someone was watching you? Now imagine that feeling, but you're deep in the woods, miles from help, no phone signal, and that feeling of being watched. It's not just a feeling anymore. What would you do if you heard footsteps behind you, but when you turned around, nothing was there? What if those footsteps got closer? What if they started running? These are not made-up stories. These are real experiences from 5 people who went into the woods alone and found out why humans have always been afraid of the dark. After hearing what happened to them, you might never want to go camping again. You might never want to be alone. And you definitely won't want to turn off the lights tonight. Story 1. The Watcher in the Pines. Sarah Mitchell was having the worst year of her life. Her mom had just died after a long battle with cancer. Her boyfriend of 5 years had cheated on her with her best friend. She had lost her job when the company went bankrupt. Everything was falling apart. She needed to get away from it all. She needed to think. She needed to be alone. That's why she decided to go camping by herself in the Pine Ridge Forest in Oregon. She had been there many times before with friends. She knew the trails. She knew where to camp. She thought she would be safe. But safety is just an illusion we tell ourselves so we can sleep at night. Sarah drove 6 hours from Portland to reach the forest. The parking area was empty when she arrived on a Tuesday morning. Perfect. She wanted to be alone. She locked her car, put on her heavy backpack, and started hiking into the woods. The trail was beautiful. Huge pine trees reached up to the sky like giant fingers. The smell of pine needles filled the air. Birds sang happy songs. Squirrels ran up and down the trees. Everything was peaceful. She hiked for 8 miles, going deeper and deeper into the forest. The trail got smaller and smaller until it was just a tiny path through the trees. Sarah loved it. No people, no noise, just nature. She found the perfect spot to camp near a small creek. The water made a nice bubbling sound. There was a flat area for her tent, fallen logs to sit on. It was exactly what she wanted. Sarah set up her blue tent quickly. She had done this many times before. She gathered wood for a fire, making sure to stay away from the living trees. As the sun started to go down, she lit her fire and cooked some instant noodles. They tasted amazing after the long hike. She sat by the fire, watching the flames dance, feeling peaceful for the first time in months. But then something changed. It happened slowly at first. Sarah didn't even notice right away. The birds stopped singing. Then the squirrels disappeared. The bugs stopped making noise. Even the creek seemed quieter. Soon the only sound was the crackling of her fire. Have you ever heard complete silence in nature? It doesn't happen. There's always some sound, always something moving. The only time nature goes completely quiet is when a predator is near. Every animal knows to hide. Every insect knows to be still. They all sense danger. Sarah felt it too. That primitive part of our brain that kept our ancestors alive. The part that screams danger even when we can't see it. The hair on her arms stood up. Her heart started beating faster. She looked around, but saw nothing, just trees and shadows. She tried to laugh at herself. City girl, scared of the dark. How silly. But the feeling got stronger. It felt like someone was standing right behind her, breathing on her neck. She spun around. Nobody there, just the dark forest. Sarah decided to go to bed early. Maybe she was just tired from the hike. She put out the fire carefully, making sure every ember was dead. Then she crawled into her tent and zipped it shut. She got into her warm sleeping bag and closed her eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. The silence was too loud. It pressed against her ears like cotton. She lay there for hours, eyes wide open in the dark, listening to nothing, waiting for something. And then, at exactly midnight, something came. She heard breathing outside her tent. Not normal breathing. This was heavy and wet, like someone with water in their lungs. It circled her tent slowly. She could hear footsteps in the pine needles. Crunch, 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 stop, breathe, crunch, 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 stop, breathe. Sarah's hand found the knife she always kept in her sleeping bag. Her dad had given it to her for protection, just in case, he had said. Now she gripped it so hard, her knuckles turned white. She didn't move. She didn't breathe. She just listened. The thing outside stopped moving. The breathing got louder. Then she heard something that made her stomach drop. Her name, whispered so soft she almost missed it. Sarah. How did it know her name? She hadn't seen anyone on the trail. She hadn't told anyone where she was camping. Her mind raced, trying to find a logical explanation. Maybe it was another hiker. Maybe they had seen her car registration. But deep down, she knew this was no hiker. Sarah, come out and play. The voice was wrong. It sounded human, but not human, like someone talking underwater, or like a recording played too slow. It made her teeth hurt just hearing it. Something pressed against the side of her tent. She could see the shape through the thin fabric. It was tall, very tall, at least 7 feet. The head touched the top of her tent and bent it inward. She could see long arms. Too long, they reached almost to the ground. I know you're awake, Sarah. I can hear your heart beating so fast, like a little rabbit. Tears ran down Sarah's face. She bit her lip to keep from screaming. Every instinct told her to run, but there was nowhere to go. She was trapped in a fabric cage with something impossible outside. The thing laughed, not a human laugh. It sounded like sticks breaking, mixed with a child giggling. Then it started walking around the tent again, but this time it was dragging something heavy that left a trail in the dirt. Your mother says hello, Sarah. Sarah's blood turned to ice. Her mother had been dead for 3 months. This thing couldn't know about her mother unless it wasn't from this world. She's here with me. She wants you to come outside. She misses you so much. Then Sarah heard her mother's voice, perfect, exactly how she sounded before the cancer changed her. Sarah, honey, come outside. I need to see you. Sarah almost unzipped the tent. The voice was so real, so perfect. For just a second, her grief overruled her fear. But then she remembered something her mother had told her when she was little. A story about things in the forest that could mimic voices to lure people out. That's not my mother, Sarah whispered. The thing outside went quiet. Then it screamed. The sound was so loud that Sarah's ears rang. It didn't sound human or animal. It sounded like metal tearing mixed with 100 voices all screaming at once. The tent shook. The ground actually vibrated. Then, suddenly, it was gone. The normal forest sounds slowly came back. Crickets started chirping. An owl hooted in the distance. The creek bubbled peacefully. It was like the last hour had never happened, but Sarah knew it had been real. She could still see the indent in the tent where it had pressed against it. She could still smell something rotten in the air, like old meat. And when she looked at her phone, she had a text message from an unknown number, just one word: soon. Sarah stayed awake all night, knife in hand, jumping at every sound. When the first light of dawn came through the trees, she packed up faster than ever before. She didn't follow the trail back. She just ran in the direction of her car, crashing through bushes, tripping over roots, branches cutting her face and arms. It took her 4 hours to find the parking area. Her car was still there, covered in morning dew. But something was different. There were handprints all over it, huge handprints with fingers that were too long. And on the windshield, written in the dirt, was a message: "I'll find you again, Sarah. You can't hide from me." Sarah drove straight to the police station in the nearest town. She was crying, shaking, covered in cuts and dirt. The officers took her statement, but she could tell they didn't believe her. They went to check the area, but found nothing. No tracks, no evidence, nothing. But that wasn't the end. Sarah moved to Phoenix, Arizona, as far from forests as she could get. She lives in a high-rise apartment building now, surrounded by concrete and people. But sometimes, late at night, she hears that wet breathing outside her window, even though she lives on the 10th floor. And sometimes she gets text messages from unknown numbers. They're always pictures of her tent in those woods, taken from angles that don't make sense. From inside the tent looking out, from above looking down. And in every picture, if you look closely, you can see eyes watching from between the trees. Sarah doesn't go outside after dark anymore. She doesn't answer unknown calls. And she definitely doesn't go anywhere near trees, because she knows it's still out there, still waiting. And one day, when she least expects it, it's going to find her again. The police never believed her story. But I do, because Sarah isn't the only one who's met something in those woods. And the thing that knew her name, it knows other names too. Maybe even yours. Story 2. The Thing That Wasn't a Bear. Marcus Thompson had been taking pictures of wild animals for 15 years. He had traveled all over the world for his job. He had photographed lions in Africa, tigers in India, polar bears in Alaska. He was not afraid of dangerous animals. He understood them. He respected them. But what he found in the Appalachian Mountains in Tennessee wasn't an animal. It was something else. Something that shouldn't exist. Marcus had gone to the mountains in October 2019 to photograph black bears getting ready for winter. This was the time when bears ate as much as possible before hibernation. They would be very active, fishing in streams and looking for food. Perfect for photography. He had a contract with National Geographic for a story about American black bears. This trip was supposed to be easy money. He drove his truck as far as the dirt road would go, then hiked another 5 miles into the wilderness. He wanted to get away from any place humans might be. Bears avoided people, so the deeper into the forest he went, the better his chances of getting good photos. He found a perfect spot by a river where he could see bear tracks and fish bones. This was definitely a place bears came to eat. Marcus set up his camp carefully. He hung all his food high in a tree, far from his tent. Bears have an amazing sense of smell, and you never want them coming to your tent looking for food. He had a special electric fence around his camp that would scare away curious animals. He had done this hundreds of times. He knew how to be safe. The first day was amazing. He saw 3 different bears fishing in the river. He got incredible photos of a mother teaching her cubs how to catch salmon. The cubs were funny, falling into the water and shaking themselves off like dogs. Marcus took over 500 photos that day. This was going to be a great article. The second day was even better. A huge male bear, probably 400 pounds, came to mark his territory. Marcus got photos of him scratching his back on a tree, leaving his scent to warn other bears. The light was perfect, coming through the trees like golden bars. These photos would definitely make it into the magazine. That night, Marcus was looking through his photos on his camera's small screen. He was sitting by his fire, feeling proud of his work. That's when he heard the growl. But it wasn't like any bear growl he had ever heard. And Marcus had heard a lot of bear growls. This sound was deeper. It seemed to come from underground, and it had a weird echo, like there were multiple animals growling at the same time but in perfect harmony. It made the hair on Marcus's neck stand up. In 15 years of working with dangerous animals, he had never felt afraid like this. Marcus grabbed his flashlight and turned it toward the sound. The bright beam cut through the darkness. At first, he saw nothing. Then, about 30 feet away, he saw eyes, glowing eyes reflecting his light. But they were 7 feet off the ground. Bears could stand on their back legs and be that tall, but these eyes weren't moving. They were perfectly still, watching. Then Marcus noticed something that made his brain hurt trying to understand it. There were 6 eyes, all at the same height, all the same distance apart, all moving together when they blinked, like they belonged to one creature with 3 heads. But that was impossible. There was no animal like that. The thing started moving. Marcus could hear branches breaking as it walked, but the footsteps were wrong. Sometimes it sounded like it was walking on 2 legs, sometimes on 4. Sometimes it sounded like it was dragging something. The eyes never stopped watching him. They never looked away. Marcus had a rifle for protection. He had never had to use it in 15 years, but he was glad he had it now. He loaded it with shaking hands, trying to keep the flashlight steady. The thing stopped just outside the circle of light from his fire. He could see its outline, but not details. It was big, bigger than any bear, and its shape was wrong. Like someone had tried to draw an animal from memory, but got the proportions all wrong. Then it laughed. Marcus's mind broke a little when he heard that sound. It was clearly laughing, a deep, rumbling laugh like thunder. But animals don't laugh, not like that. This was intelligent. This thing found something funny. Take my picture. Marcus heard the words in his head, not his ears. It felt like someone was pushing thoughts directly into his brain. His nose started bleeding. His vision went blurry. The pressure in his head was incredible, like being deep underwater. You like taking pictures? Take mine. Through his watering eyes, Marcus saw it step into the firelight. His brain couldn't process what he was seeing. It was huge, maybe 9 feet tall. It was covered in something that looked like fur, but moved like smoke or shadows. Its body had too many joints, arms that bent in ways that arms shouldn't bend, legs that had extra knees. But the face was the worst part. It was like looking at every predator that ever lived all at once. Marcus saw bear and wolf and cat and things that didn't have names. The features kept shifting, never staying the same for more than a second. But the teeth never changed. Human teeth, perfect white human teeth in rows and rows like a shark. "Take the picture," it said again, and this time Marcus heard it with his ears too. The voice sounded like rocks grinding together. Marcus didn't know why, but he raised his camera. Maybe it was fear. Maybe the thing was controlling him. Maybe he just wanted proof that this was real. His finger found the button. The camera focused automatically, trying to make sense of what it was seeing. Then the flash went off. The creature screamed. The sound was so loud that Marcus fell to his knees, hands over his ears. Blood ran from his nose and ears. Trees around him shook. Birds flew away in panic, even though it was night. The scream went on and on, getting higher and louder, until Marcus thought his head would explode. Then the thing charged at him. It moved wrong, sometimes on two legs, sometimes on all fours, sometimes seeming to teleport forward a few feet at a time. Marcus did the only thing he could think of. He grabbed his entire camera bag with all his expensive equipment and threw it into the fire. The batteries in the cameras exploded. The memory cards melted. The plastic burned with toxic black smoke. Thousands of dollars of equipment destroyed in seconds. But the creature stopped. It stood there, looking at the burning electronics, tilting its head like a confused dog. Marcus ran. He left everything behind. His tent, his food, his rifle, everything. He ran through the dark forest with branches hitting his face and roots trying to trip him. He fell over and over, but got up and kept running. Behind him, he could hear the thing following, not running, just walking, steady, patient, like it knew he would get tired eventually. Marcus ran for 3 hours without stopping. His legs were screaming. His lungs were on fire. He had cuts all over from branches and thorns. Finally, when he literally couldn't take another step, he burst out of the trees onto a road. By pure luck, a park ranger was driving by on night patrol. The ranger, Jim Peterson, took one look at Marcus and immediately put him in the truck. Marcus was covered in blood, crying, barely able to speak. He kept saying "it's coming" over and over. Jim drove him straight to the hospital. The doctors said Marcus was suffering from exhaustion and dehydration. They gave him fluids and sedatives. The official report said he had a wildlife encounter and panicked. But Jim came to see Marcus privately the next day. "Listen," Jim said, looking around to make sure no one was listening. "You're not crazy. We've had 5 other people come out of that part of the forest with the same story. Something that wasn't a bear. Something with too many eyes. Something that talks." "What is it?" Marcus asked. Jim shook his head. "We don't know. The Forest Service doesn't officially acknowledge it exists. But we don't patrol that area anymore. We've had too many rangers quit after seeing things. Strange things. Impossible things." "I got a picture," Marcus said. "Before I burned the camera, I got one picture." They found his campsite a week later. Everything was destroyed. The tent was shredded into tiny pieces. His equipment was scattered over 100-foot area. But one memory card survived, protected by its metal case. There was one photo on it. The photo is dark and blurry, but you can see 6 glowing eyes. And if you adjust the brightness and contrast, you can see more. You can see the outline of something huge, something that has too many limbs, something that's smiling with human teeth. Marcus quit wildlife photography after that. He teaches high school biology, now in a suburb of Chicago. He never goes into forests. He doesn't even like walking through parks. He keeps that photo in a safe deposit box as proof that monsters are real. Sometimes he gets emails from unknown addresses. They're always the same. Pictures of him in his classroom, taken from impossible angles, from inside the walls, from under his desk, from inside his own mouth looking out, and at the bottom of every email, the same message: take my picture again. Marcus knows it's still out there, still hunting, still waiting, and one day it's going to find him. Because things like that don't forget. They don't forgive, and they definitely don't give up. Story 3. The Cabin That Shouldn't Exist. Jennifer Walsh had just gotten divorced after catching her husband with another woman. 2 years of lawyers and fighting and crying were finally over. She was free, but broken. She needed to find herself again. That's why she decided to hike part of the Pacific Crest Trail alone. Just her, nature, and 200 miles of trail to think about her future. Jennifer was not an experienced hiker, but she had prepared carefully. She read books, watched videos, bought the right equipment. She planned to hike 20 miles a day for 10 days. It would be hard, but not impossible. She needed something hard, something to prove she was strong. The first 3 days went perfectly. The weather was beautiful. The trail was wet. She met other hikers who were friendly and helpful. Every night she set up her tent, cooked her freeze-dried dinner, and watched the stars. For the first time in years, she felt peaceful. She felt free. On the 4th day, everything went wrong. Jennifer had left the trail to go to the bathroom. She walked about 50 feet into the woods for privacy. But when she tried to go back, she couldn't find the trail. Everything looked the same. Trees in every direction. She walked where she thought the trail was, but found only more trees. Don't panic, she told herself. The trail is close. Just stay calm. But after an hour of searching, panic started to creep in. Her GPS device had died that morning. She had forgotten to charge the backup battery. Her phone had no signal this deep in the forest. She was lost. Really lost. Jennifer tried to remember what the survival books said. Find water and follow it downstream. Water leads to civilization. She could hear a stream somewhere to her left, so she headed that way. But the forest got thicker. The trees grew closer together. The undergrowth grabbed at her legs. As the sun started to set, Jennifer was officially scared. She had no idea where she was. She had maybe an hour of daylight left. The temperature was dropping. She needed shelter. That's when she saw smoke rising above the trees. Smoke meant fire. Fire meant people. People meant help. Jennifer rushed toward the smoke. She pushed through bushes and climbed over fallen logs. As she got closer, she could smell wood burning. Then, through the trees, she saw it. A cabin. An old log cabin with smoke coming from a stone chimney. The cabin looked ancient. The logs were dark with age and covered in moss. The roof was made of wooden shingles that curled at the edges. One window glowed with warm yellow light. It looked like something from a fairy tale. But right now, it was the most beautiful thing Jennifer had ever seen. She ran to the door and knocked hard. "Hello? Is anyone home? I'm lost and need help. Please." No answer. She knocked again, harder. "Please, I need help. My phone is dead and I can't find the trail." Still no answer. Jennifer tried the door handle. It was one of those old iron latches that you lift. The door creaked open slowly. The hinges sounded like they hadn't been oiled in decades. "Hello," Jennifer called as she stepped inside. "I'm sorry to come in, but I'm lost, and I saw your smoke." The inside of the cabin was warm and cozy. A fire crackled in a stone fireplace. Oil lamps gave off soft yellow light. The furniture was all handmade wood, simple but sturdy. And the smell? It smelled like fresh bread and stew. Jennifer's stomach growled. She had been so scared she forgot. She was hungry. On the wooden table was a bowl of steaming stew and a loaf of bread that looked just baked. Next to them was a note written in old-fashioned cursive writing. "Weary traveler, please eat and rest. Take what you need. Pass on the kindness when you can." Jennifer's rational mind said this was weird. Who leaves food out like this? But she was so hungry and tired and scared that she didn't care. She sat down and ate the stew. It was delicious. Vegetables and meat in a rich brown gravy. The bread was soft and warm. She ate everything, feeling strength return to her body. After eating, Jennifer looked around the cabin more carefully. There were no modern things, no electricity, no running water, no phone. It was like stepping back in time 100 years. But it was clean and warm and safe. Much better than spending the night lost in the forest. There was a small bed in the corner with a colorful quilt. Jennifer was so tired. She had been hiking all day, then panicking for hours. The bed looked so inviting. She decided to rest for just a moment. Just close her eyes for a few minutes. Then she would figure out what to do. She woke to the sound of humming. A woman's voice, sweet and low, humming a song Jennifer didn't recognize. She opened her eyes and saw a woman at the stove, stirring a pot. The woman was dressed in old-fashioned clothes, a long gray dress with an apron. Her hair was in a tight bun. She looked like someone from an old photograph. "Excuse me," Jennifer said, sitting up. "Thank you for the food. I was lost and saw your cabin. I'm so sorry for coming in without permission." The woman turned around. Where her face should be, there was nothing. Just smooth, pale skin. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, nothing. But somehow, Jennifer could feel her smiling. Could feel her looking, even though she had no eyes. Jennifer screamed and jumped off the bed. The humming continued, but now she realized it wasn't coming from the woman. It was coming from everywhere. The walls were humming. The floor was humming. The air itself was humming. Jennifer ran for the door, but the handle wouldn't move. She pulled with all her strength, but it was like the door had become part of the wall. She ran to the window, but it was the same. What had looked like glass was now solid wood. She was trapped. The faceless woman glided toward her, not walking but floating, her dress not moving even though she was. The humming got louder. And now Jennifer could hear other sounds. Children laughing, a man coughing, a baby crying, all coming from inside the walls. "Let me out," Jennifer screamed, pounding on the door. "Please, let me out." The faceless woman reached out a hand toward Jennifer. The hand was too white, like it had never seen sun. The fingers were too long, and the fingernails were black and sharp. Jennifer grabbed a chair and swung it at the woman. It passed right through her like she was made of mist. Then Jennifer heard something that made her blood freeze. Her own voice coming from the walls, laughing and talking like she was having a wonderful time. "Oh, this is so nice. Thank you for having me. I think I'll stay forever." "No," Jennifer screamed. "That's not me. I don't want to stay." More voices joined in, dozens of them, all talking and laughing from inside the walls. Men, women, children, all saying how happy they were to be there, how they never wanted to leave. Jennifer realized with horror that these were all the people who had found this cabin before her, and now they were part of it. The faceless woman was close now. Jennifer could smell her. She smelled like earth and rot and something sweet gone bad. The woman's hand was inches from Jennifer's face. If she touched her, Jennifer knew she would become another voice in the walls. Jennifer grabbed the oil lamp and threw it against the window. The glass shattered, but beyond it wasn't the forest. It was nothing. Absolute black emptiness. Not darkness, but the complete absence of everything. Like looking into a hole in reality, the faceless woman hesitated. The humming stopped. For just a second, everything in the cabin froze. Jennifer didn't think. She jumped through the broken window into the nothingness. She fell. Or maybe flew. Or maybe existed. There was no up or down. No sensation except terror. She couldn't breathe, but didn't need to. Couldn't scream, but tried anyway. Time didn't exist in this place. She could have been falling for seconds or centuries. Then suddenly she hit the ground. Real ground. Forest floor, covered in pine needles. She was back on the trail exactly where she had left it. The sun was in the same position. Her phone showed the same time. Like none of it had happened. But Jennifer knew it was real. Her hands were cut from the broken lamp. Her clothes smelled like smoke from the cabin's fire. And in her pocket was the note from the table. But now it said something different. You chose correctly. Never come back. Some doors shouldn't be opened twice. Jennifer ran down the trail until she found other hikers. She told them she had gotten confused and lost the trail for a few minutes. She didn't tell them about the cabin. Who would believe her? She finished her hike but never enjoyed it. Every cabin she saw made her heart race. Every old building made her want to run. When she got home, she researched the area where she got lost. She found stories going back decades. Hikers reporting finding an old cabin that shouldn't exist. Most were never seen again. The few who escaped all told the same story. A faceless woman, voices in the walls, a window to nowhere. Jennifer doesn't hike anymore. She doesn't camp. She doesn't even like old buildings. She lives in a modern apartment with lots of glass and metal and no wood at all. But sometimes she still hears that humming, still smells that bread, still hears her own voice coming from inside the walls, saying how happy she is to stay forever. And sometimes, late at night, she wonders if she really escaped, or if this is just another room in that impossible cabin, another trap with invisible walls. Another place where she'll be stuck forever, thinking she's free while her real body stands in that cabin, faceless and humming, waiting for the next lost hiker to come knocking at the door. Story 4. The Stairs in the Woods. Tom Rodriguez had been a forest ranger for 12 years. He loved his job, Every day he got to be outside, protecting nature and helping people. He had seen amazing things like bears with their cubs, eagles catching fish, and sunrises that looked like paintings. He had also seen sad things like forest fires and injured animals, but he had never seen anything he couldn't explain. Until he found the stairs. It was a normal Thursday in September. Tom was doing a routine patrol in his section of the Olympic National Forest in Washington. There had been a big storm 2 days earlier, and he was checking the trails for fallen trees or damage. He had been walking for about 3 hours when he saw them in the middle of the forest. Miles from any building or trail was a perfect set of wooden stairs. 20 steps going up to nothing. They just ended in mid-air. No building, no platform, just stairs climbing to empty space. Tom stopped and stared. In 12 years, he had walked this exact area hundreds of times. These stairs had never been here before. They looked brand new. Fresh lumber, no moss, no weather damage. Like someone had built them yesterday. But why would someone build stairs to nowhere in the middle of the forest? Tom got on his radio. Base, this is Tom. I've found something weird at grid reference 47B. Someone's built a set of stairs out here. There was a pause. Then his supervisor, Chief Ranger Patricia Hayes, came on. Her voice sounded different, scared. Tom, listen to me very carefully. Do not climb those stairs. Do you understand? Do not climb them. What? Why? They're just stairs. Tom, I'm serious. Mark the GPS location and leave immediately. Do not go near them. Do not touch them. Do not climb them. That's a direct order. Tom had never heard Patricia sound like that. She was always calm, even during emergencies. But now she sounded terrified. It made Tom nervous. Okay, I'm marking the location and leaving now. Good. Come straight back to base. We need to talk. Tom marked the GPS coordinates and started to walk away. But curiosity was eating at him. What could be dangerous about stairs? They were just wood and nails. He stopped and turned around. He would just take a quick photo for his report. That's all. As he walked back toward the stairs, he saw movement. A boy, maybe 8 years old, was standing at the bottom of the stairs. He was wearing weird clothes, old-fashioned clothes like from a black and white movie. Suspenders, knee socks, a flat cap, the kind of clothes kids wore in the 1940s. Hey there, Tom called out. Are you lost? Where are your parents? The boy didn't answer. He just started climbing the stairs. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Wait. Stop. Tom ran forward. Those stairs aren't safe. They don't go anywhere. The boy kept climbing. He was halfway up now. Tom reached the bottom of the stairs and grabbed the railing to follow him. The second his hand touched the wood, everything went wrong. The wood was freezing cold, like touching dry ice. Pain shot up Tom's arm. His vision went crazy, like looking through a kaleidoscope. He felt like he was falling even though he was standing still. His stomach flipped, and he thought he would throw up. He yanked his hand back and stumbled away from the stairs. The boy was at the top now. He turned and looked down at Tom. The boy's face was wrong. It was young, but his eyes were ancient. Old eyes that had seen too much. And when he smiled, Tom saw his teeth were filed to sharp points, like a shark. The boy waved at Tom, then he took one more step forward. into the empty air where the 21st step should be. But he didn't fall. He just vanished, like walking through an invisible door. 1 second he was there, the next he was gone. Tom stood frozen, his brain trying to make sense of what he just saw. Then he heard footsteps on the stairs. Multiple sets of footsteps, but the stairs were empty. He could hear people climbing, the wood creaking under their weight, but there was nobody there. He counted at least 5 different sets of footsteps, some heavy like adults, some light like children, all climbing steadily up the stairs, all reaching the top, all taking that last step into nothing. Then silence. Tom backed away slowly. As he did, he noticed the forest around the stairs was wrong. The trees grew in perfect circles around the stairs, like ripples in water. The undergrowth made patterns that hurt to look at, geometric shapes that shouldn't exist in nature, and the air felt thick and old, like breathing in a tomb. Tom ran back to his truck and drove straight to headquarters. Patricia was waiting for him. She took him into her office and locked the door. Then she pulled out a map of the United States. It was covered in red X marks, hundreds of them. Tom, what I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this room. The Forest Service has been tracking these stairs for over 50 years. They appear and disappear all over North America. Sometimes they're wood, sometimes stone, sometimes metal, sometimes materials we can't identify. What are they? Tom asked. Patricia pulled out a thick folder full of reports and photos. We don't know. But people who climb them either disappear completely or come back wrong, changed, like something else wearing their skin. She showed him photos dating back to the 1960s, all showing similar stairs in different forests. In some photos, Tom could see translucent figures on the stairs, people who weren't quite there, like ghosts caught on camera. In 1973, Patricia continued. Ranger Michael Hayes found stone stairs in Yellowstone. He climbed them. He vanished for 3 days. When he came back, he had no memory of where he'd been. But he had aged 10 years. His hair was white. His teeth were falling out. He died a week later of old age. He was 26 years old. Tom felt sick. The boy I saw. He climbed them. He disappeared. Patricia nodded. You probably saw what we call an echo. People who climbed the stairs in the past. They're stuck somehow, repeating their last moments over and over. We've had reports of seeing the same people at different stairs all over the country. So the stairs are what? Portals? Time machines? We don't know. The current theory is they're doorways to somewhere else. Another dimension, another time, maybe another Earth. But wherever they lead, humans aren't meant to go there. Everyone who's gone through either doesn't come back or comes back fundamentally wrong. Patricia showed Tom more files. Reports of rangers finding stairs and feeling compelled to climb them, like the stairs were calling to them, whispering promises of knowledge and power. Most resisted, some didn't. Ranger Jennifer Wright, 1989, found metal stairs in Oregon, climbed them, came back speaking a language no one could identify. She drew symbols that hurt to look at. She said she had seen the true shape of reality, and we were all living in a lie. She killed herself 2 days later. Ranger David Park, 2001, found wooden stairs in Montana. climbed them, came back with different colored eyes and new memories. He insisted his wife was someone else, that his children weren't his. DNA tests proved he was the same person, but he never accepted it. He disappeared one night. We think he went back to the stairs. Tom's head was spinning. Why don't we tell people? Warn them. Can you imagine the panic? The conspiracy theories. The idiots who would go looking for the stairs on purpose. No, it's better to keep it quiet. We monitor them. We keep people away when we can, and we hope they disappear before someone finds them. Patricia put her hand on Tom's shoulder. You were lucky. You didn't climb them. Most people can't resist. The stairs call to them, promise them things, show them visions of dead loved ones or better lives. You're one of the few who touched them and walked away. Tom was reassigned to a different section of the forest, far from where the stairs were. But he couldn't stop thinking about them. He dreamed about them every night. In his dreams, he climbed them over and over. Each time he reached the top, he saw something different. Sometimes beautiful worlds full of light. Sometimes nightmares full of teeth and eyes. Sometimes nothing at all. A month later, Tom went back. He told himself he just wanted to see if they were still there. Just to look, not to climb. Never to climb. But the stairs were calling him. He could feel them pulling him like a magnet. The stairs were still there. But now there were two sets. The original wooden ones, and a new set made of stone that spiraled up like a DNA helix. Between them was a sign that hadn't been there before. It was made of a metal Tom couldn't identify. The words were in English, but they hurt to read. Thomas Rodriguez. Step 21 awaits. Your place is prepared. Your time is now. Tom stood there for hours, staring at the stairs. Every part of him wanted to climb them, to see what was on the other side, to understand the truth. His foot lifted. One step wouldn't hurt. Just one step to see how it felt. No, he said out loud. No, I won't. It took every bit of willpower he had, but Tom turned and walked away. He quit the Forest Service the next day. He moved to Chicago, to the biggest city he could find. He surrounded himself with concrete and steel and people, as far from forests and stairs as possible. But even now, 5 years later, he still dreams about them, still feels them calling. And sometimes, in his apartment, he finds himself climbing stairs that aren't there. His roommate has seen him do it, walking up invisible steps in the middle of the living room, eyes closed, smiling. Tom knows that one day he'll go back. The stairs are patient. They can wait. They have all the time in the world. And when he finally climbs them, when he finally takes that 21st step, he'll understand everything. Or he'll understand nothing. Or he'll become nothing. The stairs are still out there, in forests all over the world, waiting for people to find them, waiting for people to climb them, waiting to show them what's on the other side. And if you ever find stairs in the woods, stairs that go nowhere, stairs that shouldn't exist, remember Tom's story. Remember that some doors shouldn't be opened, some steps shouldn't be taken, and some truths are better left unknown. Just keep walking. Don't look back. And whatever you do, whatever the stairs promise you, whatever you think you'll find at the top, done. Single quotes to climb them. The thing that followed me home. Let me tell you about Jake Morrison. Jake was just a normal guy, 29 years old, worked at a bank, lived alone in a small apartment in Denver. He loved hiking on weekends to get away from the stress of counting other people's money all day long. This story happened last year. In September 2023, Jake decided to go camping in the Rocky Mountain National Park. Just him, his tent, and 2 days of peace and quiet. He'd done this trip many times before. Same trail, same camping spot. He knew every rock, every tree, every turn in the path. But this time was different. This time, something came back with him. The first day was perfect. Jake woke up early on Saturday morning, packed his car with all his camping gear, and drove 2 hours to his favorite trail. The weather was amazing. Clear blue sky, cool air, birds singing everywhere. He felt happy, free, like all his work problems were a million miles away. He hiked for 6 hours to reach his special spot. It was a flat area next to a small lake, hidden deep in the forest where most hikers never went. The water was so clear you could see fish swimming at the bottom. Pine trees made a perfect circle around the camping area, like nature's own fence. Jake had discovered this place 3 years ago and never told anyone about it. It was his secret paradise. As the sun went down, Jake made a fire and cooked hot dogs. Simple food always tasted better in the woods. He sat by the fire, watching the stars come out one by one. The moon was full and bright, making the lake shine like silver. Everything was peaceful, perfect, until he heard the splash. It wasn't a normal splash, not like a fish jumping or a bird diving for food. This was bigger, much bigger, like something heavy had fallen into the water. Jake grabbed his flashlight and pointed it at the lake. The beam cut through the darkness, showing him the calm water. Nothing there, no ripples, no waves, like the splash never happened. Probably just a branch falling, Jake told himself. But deep down, he knew branches don't make sounds like that. He tried to forget about it and went to his tent to sleep. But sleep didn't come easy. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard sounds outside. Footsteps circling his tent, but not normal footsteps. These were wet, like someone walking in soaked shoes. Squish, squash, squash, squash. Round and round his tent, Jake lay there, too scared to move, too scared to breathe loud. The footsteps continued for hours. Sometimes they stopped right outside his tent door. He could hear breathing, slow, deep breathing, like something big was smelling him through the thin fabric. Then, just before dawn, it spoke. The voice was weird, wet and gurgling, like someone talking underwater. Jake, I know you're awake. Jake's heart nearly stopped. How did it know his name? He hadn't seen another person on the trail. He was miles from civilization. Come out, Jake. Let me see you. ... Jake stayed silent, gripping his knife so hard his hand hurt. The thing outside laughed, not a happy laugh. A sound that made Jake's skin crawl. Fine, stay in there, but I'll see you soon. The wet footsteps moved away, getting quieter and quieter until they disappeared. Jake waited until the sun was fully up before he dared to leave his tent. When he finally looked outside, his blood turned cold. There were footprints all around his tent, but these weren't human footprints. They were huge, maybe 18 inches long, with what looked like webbed toes. like something that belonged in water, not on land. And they were everywhere, hundreds of them, all circling his tent over and over. But here's the really scary part. The footprints led from the lake to his tent, circled it all night, then led back to the lake. Whatever visited him had come from the water and returned to it. Jake packed up immediately. He didn't even put out his fire properly, something he'd never done before. He just ran all the way back to his car. 6 hours of hiking done in 3 hours of pure fear-driven speed. When he got to his car, he thought he was safe. He drove home fast, probably breaking several speed limits. He just wanted to get back to his apartment, lock the door, and forget this ever happened. But when Jake got home, things got worse. Much worse. The first night back, he heard dripping in his apartment. Constant dripping, like a leaky faucet. He checked every tap, every pipe. Everything was dry, but the dripping continued. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. The second night, he found water on his floor. Not a lot, just small puddles here and there. But his apartment was on the 3rd floor. There were no leaks from above, no spilled drinks, just unexplained water that smelled like lake water, like dead fish and rotting plants. The 3rd night, he saw it. Jake woke up at exactly 3:33 a.m. to find something standing at the foot of his bed. In the darkness, he could only see its outline. Tall, maybe 7 feet, dripping wet. Its breathing sounded like someone gargling water. It just stood there, watching him. Jake couldn't move, couldn't scream. He was frozen with fear. The thing tilted its head like it was studying him. Then it spoke in that same underwater voice. "You can't run from me, Jake. I marked you at the lake. You're mine now." It reached out one long, wet arm toward him. Jake could see its hand in the moonlight from his window. The fingers were too long, with thick webbing between them. The nails were black and sharp like claws. Just before it touched him, Jake's neighbor's dog started barking like crazy. The thing turned its head toward the sound, seemed to think for a moment, then walked backward into Jake's closet and disappeared. Not opened the door and left. Actually disappeared into the solid door like it was made of water. Jake turned on every light in his apartment and sat in his living room with a baseball bat until sunrise. He called in sick to work. He couldn't tell anyone what was happening. Who would believe him? "Hey, boss. I can't come to work because a lake monster followed me home from camping." Yeah, right. But every night it came back. Always at 3:33 a.m. Always dripping. Always watching. And each time it got a little closer, a little braver. The neighbor's dog stopped barking at it, like even the dog had given up trying to scare it away. Jake tried everything. He stayed at a hotel. It found him. He stayed at his mother's house. It found him. He even tried sleeping in his car in a church parking lot, thinking holy ground might help. At 3:33 a.m., he woke up to see it pressed against his windshield, its fish-like eyes staring at him through the glass. After 2 weeks of this, Jake was losing his mind. He wasn't sleeping. He wasn't eating. He looked like a zombie. His boss told him to take time off. His friends thought he was having a mental breakdown. Maybe he was. Then Jake remembered something his grandmother used to say. She was from the Philippines and believed in old stories about water spirits. She always said that if something from the water follows you, you have to give it something to make it go away. a trade, an offering. Desperate, Jake drove back to the lake, back to where it all started. He brought everything he could think of: food, money, his watch, even his grandfather's ring. He stood at the edge of the water and threw it all in. "Take it," he shouted. "Take it all. Just leave me alone." The lake was silent for a moment. Then the water started bubbling, not boiling, but moving like something huge was swimming just below the surface. The thing rose from the water, and for the first time, Jake saw it clearly in daylight. It was horrible. Its body was human-shaped, but covered in scales that shifted between green and black. Its face was the worst part. Almost human, but stretched wrong, with eyes on the sides of its head like a fish and a mouth full of needle-sharp teeth. Lake weeds hung from its body like clothes. It looked at the offerings floating in the water and laughed that terrible gurgling laugh. "I don't want your things, Jake. I want you. You swam in my lake. You drank my water. You're part of me now." Jake fell to his knees. "Please, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Please, just let me go." The creature moved closer, its head tilting as it studied him. "There is one way. Find someone else. Bring them to my lake. Let them swim in my water. Then I'll take them instead." Jake's blood ran cold. It wanted him to sacrifice someone else, to curse another person with this nightmare. "I can't do that," Jake whispered. "Then enjoy our time together forever." The creature sank back into the lake, leaving Jake alone on the shore. He drove home in a daze. That night, at 3:33 a.m., it was back. But now it didn't just watch. It talked. It told Jake about the dark bottom of the lake, about the bones of everyone who had ever drowned there, about how lonely it was and how happy it was to finally have a friend. Jake lasted another week before he broke. He couldn't take it anymore. The no sleep, the constant fear, the smell of lake water that followed him everywhere. So he made a decision that haunts him every single day. He invited his coworker, Brian, to go camping. Brian was new to Colorado, excited to see the mountains. Jake told him about this amazing secret lake, perfect for swimming. They hiked out together on a Saturday. The weather was perfect, just like the day Jake first went. When they reached the lake, Brian was amazed. "This place is incredible. How did you find it?" Jake forced a smile. "Just lucky, I guess." Brian immediately wanted to swim. The water looked so inviting, so clear. Jake watched from the shore as Brian dove in, laughing and splashing like a kid. Jake saw the moment it happened. Brian suddenly stopped moving. His eyes went wide, and he looked at Jake with confusion and fear. "Jake, something just touched my leg." Before Jake could respond, Brian was pulled under. The water thrashed and bubbled for a moment, then went completely still. Brian never came back up. Jake waited an hour, then hiked out and reported Brian missing. Said they got separated on the trail. The search teams found nothing. The lake was dragged, divers searched, but Brian's body was never found that night. Jake slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. No dripping, no visitor at 3:33 a.m., no smell of lake water. The thing kept its promise. It had someone new now, but Jake knows what he did. He traded Brian's life for his own freedom. He murdered his coworker just as surely as if he'd pushed him off a cliff. The guilt eats at him every day. He has nightmares about Brian at the bottom of the lake, sitting with all the other bones, waiting in the dark. Jake quit his job and moved to Arizona, as far from lakes as he could get. He lives in the desert now, where the only water comes from pipes and bottles. But sometimes, on quiet nights, he still hears dripping, still smells lake water. And he knows that one day the creature might get hungry for more company, and when it does, it knows exactly where to find him. Jake told me this story 3 months ago. Last week, I heard he went missing. His apartment was found flooded with water that smelled like dead fish. His neighbors reported hearing splashing sounds from his unit at 3:33 a.m. The police think he had a mental breakdown and ran away. But I know better. I think the creature got lonely again. I think it came back for Jake after all. And somewhere at the bottom of a lake in the Rocky Mountains, Jake is sitting in the dark with Brian and all the others. Finally, part of the creature's collection forever. So there you have it. 5 true stories from people who went into the woods alone and discovered things that should not exist. Things that wait in the darkness between the trees. Things that hunger for more than just food. Sarah still wakes up every night checking her windows for muddy handprints. She's moved 6 times in the last 2 years, but somehow those long-fingered prints keep appearing on her windows. Always on the 3rd floor or higher. Always with the same message written in the dirt. Soon, Marcus can't look at photographs anymore. Every picture he sees seems to have extra eyes in the background, watching from the shadows. He threw away all his cameras, covered every mirror in his house, and won't even use his phone's camera. But sometimes, in reflections on windows or puddles, he sees that 6-eyed thing looking back at him, waiting. Patient. Jennifer found out something terrible last month. She did some research on the area where she found that cabin. In 1892, a family of settlers disappeared there. Their names, the Walsh, same last name as Jennifer. She dug deeper and found out she's their direct descendant. The only survivor was a baby who was found on a trail by other settlers. That baby was Jennifer's great-great-grandmother, which means that cabin, that faceless woman, might have been family. And family always wants you to come home. Tom gets letters now. Actual, physical letters with no return address, no postmark. They just appear in his mailbox. Each one has a photo of stairs in different forests around the world. Wooden stairs, stone stairs, metal stairs, glass stairs. And at the bottom of each photo, written in handwriting that looks exactly like his own, Step 21 is ready when you are. Last week, he found a single wooden step in his living room. Just one step. The first of 21. He stopped leaving his bedroom. And Jake? Well, you heard what happened to Jake. But here's something I didn't mention. Brian's family got a phone call last week. The caller ID showed Brian's number, even though his phone was never found. When they answered, they heard splashing water and a voice that sounded like Brian, but wrong, like he was talking underwater. He said just 4 words: "The lake needs more." These 5 people learned the truth that most of us try to ignore. The woods are not empty. They're full of things we've forgotten how to see. Things our ancestors knew to fear. Things that modern life has made us too comfortable to believe in, but they're still there. Waiting in the spaces between what we know and what we fear. Every missing hiker who vanishes without a trace. Every hunter who goes into the forest and never comes home. Every child who wanders off the trail and is never found. They didn't just get lost. They found something. Or something found them. The park's services know. The forest rangers know. Search and rescue teams know. There are things they don't put in reports. Things they're told not to talk about. Staircases that appear and disappear. Voices that call your name with perfect clarity in places where no human should be. Cabins that exist in no official records. Lakes that are deeper than they should be. And things that look like people but aren't. They have a saying among the old-timer rangers. The forest takes its tax. Usually it's satisfied with fear. With letting you know you're not welcome. With giving you a story that no one will believe. But sometimes it wants more. Sometimes it wants you. So the next time you think about going camping alone, about hiking that trail by yourself, about proving how brave you are by spending a night in the woods solo, remember these stories. Remember that being alone in nature means being alone with things that have been there since before humans learned to speak. Things that see you as entertainment, or worse, as food, not for their stomachs, but for their endless hunger for human fear and suffering. The trees have eyes. The wind has voices. The water has hands that reach up from depths that shouldn't exist. And once they notice you, once they decide you're interesting, they never really let you go. You might leave the forest, but the forest doesn't leave you. It follows you home in shadows that move when they shouldn't, in sounds that have no source, in dreams that feel too real, in reflections that show things behind you that aren't there when you turn around. Because here's the final truth that these 5 people learned. We like to think we're at the top of the food chain. We build cities and cars and phones and pretend we've conquered nature, but we haven't. We've just forgotten what it's like to be prey. The woods remember, though. They remember when humans huddled around fires, terrified of the darkness. They remember when we knew our place, and sometimes, just sometimes, they decide to remind us. So stay safe out there. Camp with friends. Stick to marked trails. Don't follow voices calling your name. Don't climb mysterious stairs. Don't enter cabins that shouldn't exist. Don't swim in hidden lakes. And whatever you do, if something in the forest learns your name, never go back, because the woods are patient. They've been here before us, and they'll be here after us. They can wait. They have all the time in the world, and they never, ever forget. And remember, every time you're alone, you're not really alone. Something is always watching, always waiting, always hungry. The only question is, will you be the one who gets away with just a story to tell? Or will you become a story that someone else tells, wondering what happened to their friend who went camping alone and never came back? Only the forest knows, and the forest isn't telling.